presentation is over psychologist involvement in torture, and we are arguing that it is beneficial to have psychologist involvement when it comes to torture. Just a little overview of what we're going to talk about. We're going to kind of go over where we stand and see who's on what side of this argument. We will give you a couple of definitions of torture, do a little introduction, give you some basic facts about torture that you may or may not have known, some historical uses of torture, different examples. We have a couple of videos. We will go over the APA Ethics Code. We will have some small group discussion. We'll talk about our concerns, some alternatives, and then at the end where you stand in our closing discussion. So, for those of you who think that psychologist involvement in torture is beneficial, will you please go to that side of the room? And for those of you who think it is a negative thing, will you go to that side of the room? You gotta get moving, it's chilly in here. Come on, guys. So, beneficial or not? Okay, so for people who are on the not side, why do you think that psychologist involvement in torture is not beneficial? Okay, anybody who's not presenting on it have a reason?
Because part of being a psychologist is like very much like the medical field. It's do no harm to the individual and the general public. So by torturing them, are definitely doing harm.
Okay. And people on the beneficial side, why is it beneficial? Anyone?
The potential information that will be extracted from this, and I'm just presuming here about the type of torture that would involve. There'd be no physical harm, there may be emotional distress, but the information that is extracted from the said person would be highly beneficial to potentially saving hundreds of thousands to millions of people. So,
Tiffany?
Torture is going to happen, and even if you're against it, the psychology involvement might help humanize a little bit of it to where it's not as long-lasting, emotional or mental stress.
Absolutely. Chris?
Just to clarify, is this torture in like warfare? Or is this just torture in general?
We're addressing torture specifically within like the government and warfare, but
Okay, alright, that's what I was just clarifying.
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no because those people that do the torture may have a degree in psychology, but they're also trained by the Army or the Navy or the Marines to specifically extract information, and that method is not psychology.
What if they're not the ones actually doing the torture, but rather they're just there involved, spectating, researching, that type of thing? What if they're
I
not the
still
ones?
say that's not benefit because it goes completely against the APA Ethics Code.
Okay. All right, thank you. Does anyone else have any comments? All right, you guys can go ahead and sit down. Thank you. Okay, so we have two different definitions of torture. We have the Merriam-Webster edition, which is, according to Merriam-Webster, the definition of torture is something that causes mental or physical suffering, a very painful or unpleasant experience. And then we also have the United Nations Convention Against Torture's definition, which is any act by which severe pain or suffering, whether physical or mental, is intentionally inflicted on a person for such purposes as obtaining from him or a third person information or a confession, punishing him for an act he or a third person has committed or is suspected of having committed, or intimidating or coercing him or a third person, or for any reason based on discrimination of any kind, when such pain or suffering is inflicted by or at the instigation of or with the consent of acquiescence of a public official or other person acting in an official capacity. It does not include pain or suffering arising only from, inherent in, or incidental to lawful sanction.